Of course, I'm joined by Interjection, my faithful compadre.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep, that's me.
That's me.
And we're here to watch a really good series. Samwise12 versus Mitoe. It is the round of 8, the quarterfinals for the ESOC Summer Championship. I am looking forward to this game. Two really high-level players, two great players, and a best of 7 coming our way. I am definitely looking forward to this game.
Definitely super stoked.
Hold on.
What's going on?
I had the sound muted this whole time. Two. If you're wondering why we're laughing, I just did this big, long, epic introduction, and then looked over at my other screen, and I'm like, oh crap, I have the sound muted. And, and so here we were just like pumping everything up, excitement, and...
Take 2, I guess. Let's go again.
So, ladies and gentlemen, no. I'm joined by Interjection, of course. You can hear him giggling at me in the background.
Here I am.
And we're here for Saturday SmackDown / tournament games today. It's going to be played between Samwise12 and Mitoe. Of course, we're looking forward to this. Two really high-level players, two great players playing today in a best of 7. I just want to run through the map pool very quickly. The map pool today is we're going to start on Baja, California. As you can see, Samwise12 currently has selected. We'll be working our way over to Arkansas and Indonesia, 2nd and 3rd.
Ooh.
Manchuria and Bengal coming in 4th and 5th. And then should we need the 6th and 7th game, we have Hudson Bay and Tibet as our finisher.
Wow, that'd be an interesting final map. I like these maps. These among some of my favorites in sort of the earlier games to be played as well. So looking for a good start in these couple of games in this best of 7.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a great map pool. It's a great set of maps, and I am definitely looking forward to it. So, Mitoe was, I believe, finishing his lunch as this maintenance shenaniganry happened. Like, it was hilarious because we were just getting all of us were on. Sam was on. Sam was hosting. Mitoe was hosting. We were just in the process. Like, I had just gotten an invite from Mitoe. We were just going to set it up. We were going to be on time. Everything was going to be like, yay, we're doing great. And then all of a sudden, like,
ESO.
Download the servers.
Maintenance. I wonder if they went, oh god, you can't do maintenance now. They're about to stream the Summer Championships quarterfinals. I do wonder if somebody noticed. Because it did say maintenance was going. And I believe that's different from just a... They've clicked in as Ottoman and Iroquois. That's rather different. That's rather funny. All right, let's go. All right, okay.
I want to be blue.
I'm purple.
And I need to be.
Okay, so in all seriousness, this is the quarterfinals, or is it the semifinals? I'm not entirely sure which. I always get this wrong. Can you help me out here?
Sorry, I'm too busy reading the chat where they're just. They're commiserating with the fact that everything was muted. The chat, it's hilarious because there's a 2-minute delay, right?
So everything we say, yeah, like we're reading their comments. We're like,
hello, muted. It's like, where's the sound? I'm like, no. But yeah, thankfully I noticed it when I did, and not like midway through the first game or something where it's like, we don't have any sound. Yeah. But yes, we have sound.
We do now, absolutely. But in all seriousness, yes, this is a best of 7 for the semi-finals. There isn't the quarterfinals. I always get it wrong.
This is the quarterfinals.
For the quarterfinals. Good job. That's the one I wrote in the title as well, so that's perfectly fine. But yes, as Zuta did allude to, Samwise12 and Mitoe, two very strong players. Of course, you have to be strong to make it this far. But Samwise12 has, been one of the stronger players back in the day. Was been possibly the best player, certainly holds the record to this day for highest power rating and highest elo ever.
Yes.
And took a break from the game and came back and has relearned the metagame in that time and is for all intentions and purposes basically at the same skill level he was before. Certainly a very strong player and known for popularizing the French and the build orders and the metagame for French, which is still used to this day. Mitoe, however, doesn't go quite that far back. He did join ESO, sort of on the Microsoft, the one we currently use, fairly recently. Well, it's like 2 years ago now, so it's not really that recent. But it originally came from the Mac community and is certainly one of the best players there, and that sort of translates over to this server as well. Mitoe, a very strong player and sort of a dark horse in this tournament, taking out some big names like I Am Soldier and progressing this far. Mitoe is a contender to win this tournament, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely good. He ran into a bit of bad luck last tournament where he had Venny in his bracket very, very early. And to me, Venny was a huge surprise last tournament. Like, Venny got all the way to third place, and I just didn't rate him that highly as a player. Obviously, he proved me wrong. He proved he's very capable of playing at a super high level. And so Mitoe just ran into him, like, I think in like the round of 64 or something, and just ended up kind of dropping out to the guy who ended up getting third place. And there's no shame in that either. So Mitoe definitely kind of flew under the radar, I think, a little bit as a result of that. And for anyone who's played with him for, the past year or so, knows that he's made huge improvements. He's a very strong player, and I think this is going to be a great series because these are two really good players.
All right, our players are ready. Let's get this underway. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first game in this best-of-7 series for the quarterfinals. Samwise12 versus Mitoe on this first map, Baja California, also known as Gaia, California, if you say it quickly enough. All of these maps, of course, for this tournament have been made by our resident map maker, Gaia. A big shout-out to Gaia for making these maps for this tournament. But spawning in the left-hand side of the map in the color teal or cyan or light blue, one of those three. I'll call it teal because I'm very used to saying that, and it's also one of the faster words to say when you're commentating or casting. We'll call him that for now. Here we have Mitoe playing as the German, starting with 2 wood crates, 2 food crates. Both players going to be pretty happy about that. Of course, the crates are mirrored and the civilizations are also mirrored. And therefore they'll both start with 200 wood, which is, perfect and ideal for constructing a trading post early on, which is, by the looks of it, exactly what Samwise is going to do, is explore rushing over to there and actually ignoring the 2 starting treasures in his base. Likewise is Mitoe as well, though we have seen players pick up these treasures early on and still get the trading post up in time. Or was that on a different map? I think that was
a slightly different map. The one call out I do want to make very early on this map is that neither player is opting for the center trading route. Both players opting for the respective north and south trading posts here. So neither one of these trading posts is going to be a high point of contention early in the game. And as a result of that, I think we probably won't see these trading posts die very early on.
Yeah, I think that's right. The middle one's a bit of a risk, you think, because it's obviously always it's in the middle of the map, and that's the primary source of entering to get to the other player's side of the map is going to be. Yeah. So, but then what if both players go for the same one?
That's the thing as well, right? It's a bit risky, and there is the advantage if you do build in the middle portion of the map that you are going to have that extra vision. Versus building down here to the south, you're only going to have vision in this very obscure southern piece of the map, which, due to the kind of choking nature of the map, is pretty good. But at the same time, it's not nearly as good as having full vision across here. But as I mentioned, despite having full vision in the middle of the map, you do put your trading post at a very kind of precarious position that can be sniped pretty easily. So both players opting for the safer route, and both players opting for one that was, I guess, clockwise from their town, and as a result of that, nothing to note early on, aside from the fact that Samwise12 picking up a huge treasure here.
Oh, wow. I'm not looking. Oh, yes.
150 coin.
150 coin. Mitoe picking up similarly a 75 coin. Not quite as big, in fact, exactly half the size, but still early days in terms of treasure collecting. A 30 coin here to mitigate that as well. Just picks up a nice unguarded muskrat treasure. We'll have to take a look at the treasures they do find. Looks like Mitoe going to be heading over towards this 95 wood treasure there, and he's going to be pretty happy about that, of course. Going to make getting up a market during transition a lot smoother and a lot easier, and as a result, he's going to have to collect far less wood. Now going to grab that and more food gather time, which will make his Fortress Age time more competitive. Assuming he does go up to the Fortress Age, he doesn't necessarily have to in a German mirror. There are certainly plays that can be seen, and this is rarely where you can see sort of doppelsonders being trained. It's the German mirror where that happens. But 60 wood also going to Samwise. What do you think?
I think we are going. Honestly, I don't think we're going to see Fortress play all out here. So there's a couple of things to consider here. This map is fairly large in terms of just sheer rush distances. If you compare the actual distance that both players have to travel to get to each other's base, it is fairly large. But at the same time, in the German mirror, my thoughts on it,
Samwise not gonna. I thought he was gonna capture and get him in hand combat there, but he does not. Actually, both players fairly on the same hit points. But sorry, I could continue.
Basically, what I'm getting at is, it seems almost a bit risky if one player does go Doppelsatner. There's not a lot of openness in the map for Ulans to actually raid, and the Doppelsatners can just kind of brute force their way right through the middle of this map. I don't necessarily think we'll see Fortress play. I think we'll actually see at least Sam. I know we saw in the last series that he played. He just played straight Age 2 with Doppelsatners. And if you catch your opponent trying to Age and you're making pure Doppelsatners, you can punish them very, very quickly. Of course, Dopps have some of the highest siege in the game, and just that high raw siege potential can cause so much damage. I mean, you can threaten the town center very easily in itself by just, having 10 Doppelsatners out on the map, and that's not something that you can easily defend with 5 Ulans and Minutemen. At the very least, you're going to have to maybe ship 8 crossbows, and then at that point, is it really worth trying to age up if you've expended all these resources just to hold off the pressure that your opponent is putting on? We'll have to see whether or not either player decides to open stable, or whether or not we see some barracks Doppelsatner shenanigans. I think there's a lot of options available in this matchup, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. We'll find out here in about a minute.
Yeah, we will. We certainly will. But interesting things to note here. Samwise does click up a little bit sooner than Mitoe by a couple of percent. In fact, almost 10%, I would say. It's going to be up a little bit quicker, which means that first shipment will arrive a little bit sooner. But 10 seconds really isn't a huge amount of time, and I can't see that shipment really making too many waves. But Sam now up to the next stage. 400 wood on the floor. Does get steel tramps in queue. We'll have to see what he opens up with then, of course, and his first shipment as well. We're looking for the building that goes down whilst he's gathering up the wood here.
Yeah,
does start with the stable. All right, so looking to sort of take this into the Fortress Age. Then going to make some cavalry during transition. First shipment going to be something like 300. Either 700 coin or 3 villages. Most likely the 3 villages. Power up that economy and then head on up to the Fortress Age whilst using the cavalry to do some raiding though. But Mitoe also electing to do the same thing here. But of course, both players, they don't know each other are doing the same thing. They're going to have to be wary, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of this comes down to just the nature of the map. As I mentioned before, it's a fairly long rush distance, right? And as a result of that,
picks up the 40 XP in his base. But as a result of it, Mitoe's 2 Ulans that he gets for free from his first shipment do manage to pick up the opponent's Explorer, though Samwise now has the information he needs.
Yeah, that got spotted. That got spotted as well. I'm surprised Sam didn't stop and kill it. But, yeah, but as you mentioned, Sam knows what his opponent is doing. Both players are opting for 3 settler wagons, a high amount of flexibility there. And it looks to me like it's just going to be, as you kind of mentioned, it's just going to be like a gentleman's semi-FF here, where both players are just going to not force the issue. Both players just going to ship their 700 coin, and both players going to just scoot on up to the 3rd age. As a result of that, I think interesting shipment out of Mitoe, 700 wood. Which is going to mean a couple of different things.
Though we do have a lot of tension in the area, lots of units nearby. Yeah. Are we likely to see a fight here? I think if we take a look at the military tab, Mitoe has 2 extra Ulans, that they aren't in that fight at the moment, but it looks like they're not actually going to engage there. But 700 wood, what does this tell us?
Yeah, so that tells us a couple of different things. One, it tells us
having said that, though,
a little bit of an engagement there. Mitoe does pick up 1 Ulan for free, despite having slightly fewer Ulans in that.
But both players being fairly passive at this time. Perhaps not entirely sure he wants to go in right now. Does have those 5 Ulans on the way, which is actually he's elected to train. His opponent doesn't have any more Ulans in queue at this point in time. So the Mitoe 5 Ulans ahead, which is going to give him a big advantage in this fight, should he choose to take it, though he's going to damage his Fortress Age time. But is the 700 wood a facet of that? Yeah,
and so that's basically the trade-off that he's going for there, right? He sends the 700 wood. He's going to be able to essentially get some better infrastructure out of that. He's going to be able to get his barracks up a little bit earlier. He's going to not be housed. Could potentially, now that he has the middle portion of this map secured with the larger Ulan mass, secure the middle portion of the map. But as a trade-off, we can see Sam already, progressing to the third age quite nicely. He's going to be about 50% of the way aged
There
before
goes
Mitoe
Samwise, though. Looks like he's going to engage, and Mitoe has all of his cavalry on that market there, getting some cheeky shots in. Perhaps Samwise can target the cavalry whilst they're sieging the market and get absolutely crazy trades in. But actually, just going to sit there and let his market go. Perhaps it's too late, and he identifies his opponent as more Yolans than he does.
Yeah. It's an interesting little trade-off. We can see both players sent 700 coin and 700 wood, but they flipped the positioning of where they were sent. Sam's option gets him aged up a little bit quicker, but with a little less infrastructure and a little smaller Ulan mass, whereas Mitoe's does the exact opposite. It gets him aged up a little bit slower, but has slightly better infrastructure and slightly more of an Ulan mass. And it's going to just come down to whether or not Samwise can make advantage of these extra 20 or 30 seconds that he's going to have in the Fortress Age.
Looks like he wants to come in, though.
With his veterancy upgrade, it's going to be really, really good for him.
And speaking of veterancy, it is almost here, 90%, almost 95% about to arrive, but by the looks of it, he gets a little bit too far away. But at any time, if Samwise had slipped up in his base there, and hadn't been looking at his cavalry for just a moment, Mitoe's extra 5 would have been brutal in any fight that he was forced into taking. But Samwise, good player, not going to let that happen, and as a result, we do have both players up to the Fortress Age, one up a bit sooner, and the other as Zuta described here. But these Ulans, I'm a little bit just watching them.
It's playing with fires. Yeah, they're both so close. And Mitoe's upgrade is about to tick here. He's about 80% of the way. Sam's, of course, is already finished. Mitoe's is going to finish very quickly. Sam's still looking for an opening where he can force a fight, but that's not going to happen. He's going to realize his opponent has upgraded units as well here. And he's not going to be able to fight.
No, get back. He doesn't like that at all. He's going to have to take the fight here. There's an extra quantity of Yolans for Mitoe, though Samwise has elected to train war wagons, which are nowhere near here. They're still in training, and it looks like Mitoe just has more units than his opponent here. Of course, you're going to want to be identifying the units that are being attacked and sort of running them away to force your opponent's cavalry to follow it whilst yours is running and get some extra damage in here. But just by having the extra units, Mitoe picking up a absolutely biblicized his opponent's army there.
I mean, it just comes down to the fact that Ulans have such high DPS. If you take a look at their hand attack, 44 hand attack, which really punishes, even if you just have slightly more.
Yeah, does see the war wagons though, and doesn't want to get in and take them there. Though having but when I look at that though, you think veteran war wagons are really slowly, and actually cavalry are good against everything, assuming they're actually doing damage and not taking damage. But since you've got so many, and the dragoons or the war wagons more can't get away, perhaps you do just slam them in there and take them out. But of course, there could be that 8 Ulan or 9 Ulan shipment arriving as well, and of course, Mitoe doesn't want to be slamming in on those war wagons when he's anticipating a shipment arriving. Does bring his army back. He's looks like he's going to be massing up, waiting for the shipments, but does have 5 cavalry coming in here for a raid. Going to pick up this Ville perhaps, but the army of Samwise does meet to defend it, and actually it looks like he's going to catch these 5 Ulan, and that is exactly what Samwise needs, having just taken such a big loss in that fight that we saw.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to help him pull back to even. We can see already Sam starting to shift a little bit more to the war wagon production. We can see Mitoe starting to mix in the barracks. The days of pure Ulan for this game are ended, essentially. Both players going to be forced to train something a little bit differently. And certainly to Mitoe's advantage here, does have a slightly larger military mass, does have a few more of those Ulans remaining, but at the end of the day, both players are going to have to start calling an audible in terms of unit compositions anyways. And moving forward here, probably we're going to see both players start to transition into things like skirmishers, going to start contesting more of the map as we can see both players starting to run a very safe resource.
Here we go, Samwise coming in, looks like he wants to take a fight here, going to take Mitoe by surprise. He didn't see that until the alarm bell went off, because clearly he only started to move once his units were being attacked. Does turn around, looks like he wants to engage, identifies that perhaps his unit mass isn't as big, or perhaps it's just killing off a few cavalry that were attacking him so he could get away there. But ultimately, Samwise does defend his trading post, both players escaping here. And now that we're into this sort of mid-game portion of the game, both players have survived the early game, got up to Fortress nice and safely, and are under no sort of immediate threat. I think it's time to take a look at the economies of each player. Looks like, Samwise here is 3 villages behind, which is a small amount. It's not a huge amount, but ultimately in a mirror, that kind of bonus over time, if your opponent has an extra couple of units in, is certainly going to be beneficial to Mitoe. So
yeah.
The longer this game goes on, Mitoe is going to be pretty happy, though of course he doesn't know that he's up 3 villages.
And at the same time as well, we can see Mitoe has started to ship things like 8 skirms as well. So he's really starting to diversify his composition quite nicely, which is going to make it a little bit more tough for Sam with this big. Holy crap! Where did he get all those war wagons?
Wow, that is an incredible amount of war wagons. Holy crap! And of course, his opponent can't really escape here since these Yolans have like pinned down his opponents there. And of course, if they're snared, and getting away means you'd have to take damage from really high DPS veteran Ulan, which absolutely smash you if you're trying to escape here. The skirmishers, though, identify that the cavalry have disappeared and are going to try and get out of here. But perhaps it's too late. They're not going to get too far. These skirmishers are going to get absolutely slapped and spanked by these veteran Ulans, and all of these war wagons in the back are, not really very threatened by the skirmishers, which really should threaten them. Though having said that, all the cavalry have gone down. But in terms of sheer damage and sheer unit presence, Samwise is ahead, even though skirmishers do counter veteran war wagons. But you think how much these things cost. Ultimately, they're not going to continue to push.
That was such an insane tech switch from him shipping 3 war wagons and building a full batch of 5. As you mentioned, so many resources, but at the same time, look at how hard that swung the military populations. Prior to that fight, Mitoe had almost a 20 military population advantage, and now look at the military populations, 60 to 17.
I know.
And you have to question, can Mitoe kill these war wagons? Like, that is so many war wagons.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've actually seen that many war wagons in a competitive 1v1 in a very long time, just because of how expensive they are. And now that
the
resources are starting to run out, and look at where Mitoe's gathering from. Very precarious positions over here. Things are going to get heated here in a second as the Ulans and war wagons start moving out across the map, and Mitoe is definitely playing catch-up at this point.
Is playing tomato catch-up at this point. The barracks is threatened, and of course his current gold mine has 200 left, and as you say, a precarious position. His next coin mine is really, really far out, and his opponent should be able to force him off the coin, and if he does that, no more military production, and of course, if you have all these villagers that aren't gathering, they're not very useful at all. But Mitoe does push his opponent back. Sam, Mitoe's villagers still able to gather. Sam not stopping that just yet. Of course, Skirmish is quite good against veteran war wagons, and this signals to me that Sam, even though he would win this fight by the looks of it, though Black Riders have arrived, so perhaps not now, he's waiting for a batch of units, possibly Ulan, to help this fight. Of course, doesn't really want to fight the skirmishes right now. But Black Riders and Minutemen, is this like a full push to just all-in push to try and reclaim?
Yeah, and he's going to have to at the same time, right? He's running out of gold. Look where he's gathering. His next coin mine is across the 50% mark. And Sam, it looks like this is going to be the big fight here. We're going to see Sam's villagers migrating to this next coin mine as well.
Yeah.
Both players have to make a play here now to hold the middle of the map.
5 war wagons do join the fray, though. The Black Riders, though, they have gone down fairly quickly. They don't have any ranged resist, only 40% melee, and of course, when you don't have a ranged resist against that many sort of war wagons, not too good. In terms of composition, Mitoe's army does sort of counter him. He's got more skirmishes, but there are so many war wagons there. Sam is just gonna force his way through. And I thought those villagers that are now gathering that coin mine were gonna get in that fight or something, but they're not gonna do that.
Get up in those. No.
Yeah. No.
Sam finally building a barracks. We can see he held off on building a barracks for so long, and now it looks like he is finally going to build a barracks. Going to be starting to train a couple skirmishers. Does have his 7 skirm shipment coming in here as well, which is going to help buffer up that number a little bit as well. And I think from here, the next time that some sort of a coin mine gets challenged, I mean, if this position gets challenged whatsoever, Mitoe's going to run in a hard stop out of coin, and that is going to be a very difficult situation for him to recover from, because we can see both players, so much tension here in the middle portion of the map now that the coin mines are starting to run out, and both players really having to start to use these less safe coin mines. And that's one thing that we always know about German mirrors, right? If you can control the coin mines regardless of what the other circumstances are on the map, controlling the coin mines, because German units cost so much coin, is a very, very strong thing. Jaeger's in the mix.
Jaeger's in the mix. Looks like Mitoe is calling on the mercenaries for the extra power spikes to hopefully win the fights and get back in the game that way. But Jaeger's taken some mad damage from those Ulans. They are now down. Jaegers are very strong, and certainly his opponent has a massive just war wagons here. Actually, Mitoe doesn't look too bad in this fight.
Yeah, he's cutting through this war wagon count here quite nicely, and we can see Sam struggling to reinforce enough Ulans to actually deal with these Jaegers. A couple of Ulans coming in from Mitoe as well, going to start threatening the back lines. A couple more Ulans coming in from Sam from the right-hand side, going to be able to do some decent damage. But as you mentioned, the war wagon count is getting dangerously low for Sam, and things starting to maybe swing back into Mitoe's favor.
Yeah, perhaps both armies in terms of military population are the same now, 34 military units each. It looks like Samwise is going to get out of here, so he's going to take a few more units on the retreat there. And out of nowhere, Mitoe does manage to get back in the game, having been down 50 military unit population or more. In terms of economy, Samwise is ahead by a couple of villages, but providing, whoever has the biggest army right now, if they can control sort of the coin mines or the resources, this is a really pivotal point in the game where it's quite even and it's all about sort of controlling resources here.
There's so many villagers up here for both sides, and the second that both players saw that, we can see Sam is like trying to just pick off the war wagon, stopping him here, and Mitoe's trying to get over there to contest it, but he's having a difficult time getting up over there because it's Sam's half of the map, and just the terrain in general is causing him so many issues. Mitoe's villagers don't look like they really know where they want to go. And,
where do they
Sam
want
is kind of they want to gather resources, but they can't find anything to gather.
Oh my goodness, this is a very close game at this point. Even though Samwise, in terms of score, is quite far ahead, both players fairly even in terms of military count.
Yeah, and if you run out of resources and your opponent has even just slightly more military, even if you have more techs, more whatever, it doesn't matter because you're not going to be training any more units and you're going to run out of resources. You're just not going to have resources to build any stuff. But I think Sam has prevailed here. I think he's going to be able to deal with these Jaegers efficiently, and now we can see all of the villagers very, very exposed.
Come on, Mitoe. You need to get these units in play. They've been sitting there. He's going to identify that and be really annoyed with himself there. But if they were in the fight, just if he'd managed... Oh, no! But it's identified now that Samwise is on top of his resources. These have nowhere to go. And that is a very interesting first game for a mirror, our German mirror here. Samwise does take the win. Very swingy game and quite back and forth at various points.
That big war wagon pop, it's still boggling my mind how he pulled 8 war. Like, I had my screen centered over the fight, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes just charging in 8 war wagons. I thought for a minute, like, is this like a bug? Is my game glitching? Surely he didn't pull together that many war wagons. And then I looked at the units trained and his shipment, and it made sense. I mean, he just got out a batch of 5 war wagons from his stable, and he shipped 3, and all of a sudden there was just this big unstoppable force of war wagons, and the tech switch caught Mitoe by so much surprise, similarly to me, that he just wasn't able to formulate a response, and things went really well for Sam from that point forward. Now, we did have the mercenary shipments, which did help slightly to bring things back into Mitoe's favor, but up until that point, I thought Sam was down and out. I thought Sam had lost just after that first big engagement where he lost so many units, and swinging it back so hard with that war wagon timing, just so impressive. Such a good game. Nicely done.
And did both players now chatting and identifying sort of the differences in the game and what they did differently, and then talking about sort of Sam curious as to why he lost all of his units quite early on, and noticing that there were extra units. It was a close one. I think it could have gone on if there were some war wagons in the middle of the map that got caught, and there were some units idle in his base. If they were sort of over here in that fight, could have gone differently, but ultimately a close one. And Mitoe definitely shouldn't be ashamed with that at all, and was for, as you pointed out, winning for some of the game.
Yeah, well, I think he was quite far ahead for some of the game, and also Mitoe's here just saying in the chat in the next game, talking about the war wagons in the middle of the map, which did definitely cost him. As he was trying to pad up there to save those villagers, Sam had some skirmishers stationed right at that choke point, which were able to pick off 3 or 4 war wagons and maybe even some more HP from some of the other ones. And not only that did he kill war wagons, but he repabbed the war wagons that were trying to come up there. So his Ulans that were coming from Sam's base, from shipments from the stable, etc., that were able to easily access those villagers, were now having to, he had to reroute his war wagons all the way around that cliff. And it just cost him so much time getting into a position to defend his villagers that by the time he got there, Sam had already pushed him off resources, had controlled the portion of the map that he needed to control, and was fighting an uphill battle in that regard, just for positioning as well.
That does conclude the game, though. One for the history books, perhaps, as I'm reading from the chat there, and I absolutely agree. Let's head on out into our next one, though. The score is currently 1-0 in favor of Samwise12.
I'm so excited that we get like 7 more games as well, right? Like our
Samwise12's game absolutely everywhere in the browser.
Yeah, I saw
that is wonderful. I'm not quite sure which the real one is now. We have to look for it. We might have to have Mitoe host.
Well, strangely enough, Mitoe is hosting, so the one that you're specifically looking for is Mitoe's game.
Oh, oh dear.